the missing ingredient that many are saying is, where's my access to capital?
Exactly.
Is that we've got the energy, we've got the creativity, we have the enthusiasm, we have the education, but don't have the access. How do we get to that main prime? That's the meat of the sandwich.
Meat of the sandwich. So
Yes.
by the way, this is America, this is America, this is America. There's one consistent theme in the Declaration of Independence and in the Constitution. It's property rights. It's actually the most consistent theme in the Constitution, more consistent than liberty, more consistent than freedom of speech. In fact, if you read the Constitution, freedom of speech came later as an amendment.
Wow.
What's in the body of the Constitution
Yeah.
is property rights.
Mhm.
So ultimately, this country is about ownership and capitalism. And so you're right that the meaningful challenge for us is access to capital. The largest banks in the world, J.P. Morgan, Citibank, have 4 to 5 for Citi and 3.5 to 4 for J.P. Morgan, $1 trillion of assets. The largest African American bank has $800 million. It's less than 1%.
Wow.
Less than 1%. And trillions of dollars of assets. And so the challenge for African American people is access to capital. Here's one solution I have. If every mayor of African American descent took the tax rolls of their respective city and took 5% of the tax rolls, and instead of depositing them with the larger banks, put 5% of the tax rolls in 2 or 3 African American banks, we can make a multi-billion-dollar bank immediately. Because the way banks works is that for every deposit,
Yes.
depending on where the Federal Reserve
You're right.
rules are, for every dollar deposit, there is anywhere from 10 to 20 times financial capacity for the institution because they can borrow the rest from the Federal Reserve. So we could actually make ourselves a $1 trillion bank, at least a $100 to $200 billion bank, if just the mayors, the African American mayors of major cities,
Yeah.
deposited 5% of their tax rolls with minority banks. The largest bank today is Carver in New York City, $800 million. And there might be others that are growing to that size. I know there's one of scale in Louisiana today. But if we could revolutionize the black banking system with that one, that means that Atlanta, that
Yeah.
means that New York,
Yeah.
that means that Chicago, right? That means that Dallas, the largest
LA.
cities in the country,
Yeah.
Los Angeles, if they just
Baltimore.
took 5% of their tax rolls and put it with African American banks, you could make a multi-billion-dollar black bank in 2 years. And you would make it competitive to at least the other mid-tier banks in the United States of America. I think that solution, that we have to turn political power into economic power.
And it is hard because so much culturally of what we drive behind is personality over principles. And so we get excited around who is charismatic, not those who are systematic.
Right.
And so many of those who have been working in the background of finances really don't get the kudos and commendation. Just yesterday, I was at the Herman J. Russell building, who incidentally built half of downtown Atlanta.
Right.
And he is the largest incubator for black businesses in America,
Mm-hmm.
but his name has not been heralded.
Mm-hmm.
How do we, I don't have any other way to say it, how do we make financial literacy sexy?
Well, here's the challenge that I'm not sure. You have a better answer for this one than I do, because it's cultural.
Right.
We don't celebrate Rockefeller
Mm.
and Vanderbilt
Yeah.
and Carnegie, right? Culturally, who do we celebrate? What do we elevate as valuable?
Mm.
Mm-hmm. That tells you a lot about a people.
Yeah.
And I believe that the pulpit has as much power as anyone to influence that.
Yes.
If you take the Robert Smiths of the world, a name that we didn't know until he gave away $40 million, should be a household name to every African American person in America.
Yes.
Who do we celebrate? Do we celebrate, the Bob Johnsons of the world, people who, for better or for worse, in one way or another, have built these massive empires of influence in the United States? And so I think that part of what we have to address about our own reality and our own cultural interactions is what do we celebrate in each other and what do we elevate? And if the challenge is that what we elevate does not pay. It doesn't pay. We elevate stuff that gives us a blank check, bounces our checks.
Because we are so more driven to entertainment than we are for empowerment.
That's right.
Black Enterprise had a article a couple of years ago that said somewhere, you would have the data better than I, somewhere around 82% of Black businesses never become second generation because we're not creating legacy wealth. It is just a shot in the arm.
Yeah.
In Japanese culture, every family has a 100-year family plan, and we can't pull together a family reunion every 2 years.
Right.
How do we shift that narrative to go with where you started in terms of mindset?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, it's interesting. One of my favorite books is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yes.
I think it's habit number 2. You have to begin with the end in mind. Right? You have to begin with the end in mind. I think that the scripture affirms this. The Bible says, write the vision, make it plain, it shall speak and not lie. And in every aspect of our lives, we have to envision the end. And we have to think about what our wills look like today.
Yeah.
We have to think about what our children inherit today. We have to think about what where our grandchildren go to college and high school today. That's how our counterparts think. They're not thinking about where am I going out next week,
right?
Where we buying the next car next year, or even where I'm going to live 2 years from now. They're thinking in terms of what are my children's children lives look like. And I think that we just have one of the things we absolutely have to do is we have to look further and basically then discount what does that mean today. If I have a certain outcome that I want 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now, I can discount it right back to tomorrow and right back to the conversation that we're having today. Everything I do is informed by that end goal. And I think that the challenge is that we have not, as a people, developed a collective end vision.
No, that's so critical. When you look at the full mass of where it is that we are, both of us are NAACP alumnus.
Sure.
The Urban League was really established different from the NAACP to really forward and to champion an economic agenda. I really shudder, Tawan, about where it is that we are, especially in light of this looming election and how many people are saying they're not going to participate. They're not going to be involved. And so the apathy that is now awash in our community is more of a pandemic than COVID-19. I want you to really talk about the politics of the economy. What a lot of people are missing out on is that people are making political decisions on the economy, not on the personality. This is
see, I wish that people understood.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton was running against George Bush.
Yes.
And he won in 1992 based on one clip. It's the economy, stupid. Right? What I think people miss is that everything else is noise. It's all about the economy.
Yeah.
It always has been. Always has been. The racial conversations, conversations about personal morality and sexuality, conversations about lifestyle, noise. Behind all of that, the motivations are really economic. That's why Democratic economic cycles and Republican economic cycles are almost identical. That's why
I'm past that. Wait, stay there. Stay right there. What is it? What is the cycle?
So the cycle is that you go through about 7 to 10 years of booms and then 2 to 3 years of bust, right? The cycle is that there has been no meaningful tax reform in either the Democratic or the Republican administrations to the cycle is that there has been no meaningful move toward reparations. The cycle is that there is no meaningful policy to broaden economic opportunities in the United States. Right now, the top 5 to 10% of Americans control 76% of the nation's wealth.
Wow.
Right now. But that's been true since the 1940s. There has been no flattening of the economic opportunity.
Yeah.
The system is made to maintain. The 50% in the middle control roughly 23%, and 50% and below, the bottom 50%, control less than 1% of the nation's wealth. And that has been true in economic cycles led by Democrats. That's been true in economic cycles led by Republicans. And so I wish I could get folks to really understand that much of the cultural politics, the politics today of race and lifestyle, hides the real motivation. And the real motivation is still economic. And let me tell you why. What is the biggest predictor and driver of election outcomes?
The inflation?
No, it is donations. Donations. It's not how many Democrats there are or how many Republicans there are. It's not what the economy is doing. I can tell you in September who is going to be president in November by who's raised the most money. The United States had the opportunity to strike down corporate campaign giving, and it did not. You know what it did instead? The Supreme Court defined the corporation as a human being and said that and if you read the ruling, it says that the corporation is defined as a human being and has just as much ability to make a political donation as you and I as individuals.
Wow.
Which was why corporate donations and corporate giving to campaigns is still unchecked today, because at the base of it all, it's economic. And they're just using everything else as noise and distractors to maintain the economic status quo. The one thing I learned, I've been blessed with a good education. I studied economics as an undergrad. I went to Oxford, and then I went to Harvard Business School. The one thing that they let me see that clarified my mind is that it's all economics and that everything else is just noise. That's probably the one thing I've learned. And I think that if we understood that, we would vote.
Let me drag you into your economy profession and your apostolic calling. I want to pull them together on the love of money is the root of all evil. I really want you to unpack, because I can't make heads or tails of it, on the number of black men who are saying they're supporting Trump because of the economy and will dismiss the ethics that are now connected to it. If all things are economic, all things point back to it, where do we make the differentiation?
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
There's not much economics in hanging from a tree. And the biggest threat to economics is survival. What I, as an individual, have to decide as a voter is whether the policies at hand threaten my existence, the existence of my people, the existence of my family members and people like me. That's number one. And I think the challenge is that you could make the argument that certain strains of political extreme threaten the very existence of African-American families, children, young men and women. And if you can't survive, then you can't build an economy. And I think that really is the decision. And I have to be careful because you see, I'm a member of the Green Party.
Yeah.
I'm a member of the Green Party. They don't actually have the Green Party in the United States. They do in some other parts of the world, not here anymore. I'm a member of the Green Party because, as far as I can tell, both Democratic and Republican money spins green. And I am glad to invest Republican money in our company.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to invest Democratic money in our company. So I'm not hard and fast because I see certain challenges and opportunities in both directions. But what I have to ask myself is a question of basic survival. And I think that other groups do a better job of defending their survival so that they can get to economics. And I think that's what we have to do as well.